Alrighty, before H4 closes in approximately 9 minutes, let's go through the pairs. Okay, so starting off with Euro USD. Now this pair I haven't done it in a while because it's quite slow, but I have been getting a lot of requests. Oops, sorry, my Apple Pen. Never mind. So, Euro USD, a lot of you have been requesting for this particular pair. I have been refraining from it because it's been climbing really slow, but it has entered a zone. So now I'm mapping it out for you. So Euro USD, why did I map my sell zone? Because this was an engulfing buy that was respected. But then later on, it was disrespected, right? It broke over here. Oops. So it broke over here. You see the little white tiny poking out of the zone. Price came back up, created an engulfing sell, but did not really create a breakout until this guy over here. A solid breakout. Then it retraced back and then created another engulfing sell. So you do have a lot of engulfing sells in the zone. 1, 2, 3. Then we have 4 over here. All right. So now it even happened over here where the H4 actually poked within the key level itself before dropping. And then after this drop, it played around a bit before poking this key level on the buy. So for the buy zone, we have an engulfing sell that broke over here. Right? Then price came back, created this engulfing buy. Let's just check if this is an engulfing buy. Oops. Because sometimes I need to make sure that it closes above. Actually, no, it's not an engulfing buy. Okay, so it's an engulfing fail only because this candle did not close above this candle's high. Alright, then we have this guy over here that closed in the zone just a little bit. You see the green and created this engulfing buy because this candle closed above this guy's high. So we have an EFEG buy and then an HLZ sell, or your ABC sells on this sell zone up here for H4. Okay, so I already marked the key levels. What can Euro USD do? Let's just go to a daily so it's easier to draw the zones like this. Okay, it's actually not easier at all, but never mind. Let's screenshot this again. Okay, Euro USD, if it decides to respect, right, on just monitor H4 in approximately 6 minutes, if it closes within the zone, then switch down to M15 or M5 to find a setup. That could be your EFEG, or your engulfing meets engulfing. Okay, so find that in M15. If you can't find that in M15, then you switch to M5. So once you find a setup in a smaller time frame after H4 has respected, right? Because we know if H4 respects the zone, there's a potential that it could sell back down. So you can press enter, but only after the setup has completely formed to lower your risk. But what happens if it breaks above the zone? Okay, you can't really see the tippy top of the zone, so mark it on your chart and monitor. If it breaks above the zone, then we know it potentially could go even higher. After breaking the zone, it can either shoot up in one go into a higher zone or retrace back into the key level for a better buy up into the higher zone. Okay, vice versa, if it decides to drop down into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially we can catch a buy back up. But if it decides to break below the zone, then potentially it might want to test a lower region. Okay, like this. Again, entry, monitor M5 or M15. Just start with M15 first. If you can't find any setups on M15, switch to M5. Alright, now we go to GU. Actually, I'm picking USD pairs because there will be a USD news, a high impact news on USD pairs in the evening during the US session. Okay, so we have Euro USD, and now we're looking at GBP USD. Again, we are using the same zone that I've marked for GU because it has not broken the zone yet, and so far it's been respecting it quite well. So we have an engulfing sell meets engulfing sell meets engulfing sell zone. This is just an engulfing sell meets engulfing sell zone for a sell zone on H4. Then for the buy zone, we have an engulfing sell that failed over here. Price came back, created an engulfing buy up. Okay, so current price is in the zone. All right, and now you know that we have EU and GU. They will move similarly. because it's a USD cross pair, so there's a correlation to it. If you can find a setup on GU and EU, then there's a higher chance that it will sell down on both even. Okay, so it's a good pair to monitor. If it flies, usually it would fly together because again, it's crossed with a USD. Okay, so that's just tips and tricks on how to monitor multiple pairs as you go during the day. So current price is over here. If it decides on H4, if it closes within the zone, which is most likely to happen, then potentially we can catch a sell back down. But if it decides to break above the zone, then potentially it might want to test a higher zone or a higher region. Vice versa, if it drops down all the way into our buy zone and respects it, then potentially we can catch a bounce back up. But if it decides to break below the zone, then potentially it might want to test a lower region. Okay, now because the USD high impact news is in the evening during the US session, sometimes when you can find a sell setup that has formed, but it's not ready to sell yet because it needs that catalyst from the news. It needs the volume from the news from the US session. So sometimes you will find a sell setup that has formed, but it will just keep playing around in that area before actually going into the direction, only after the news is released. Okay, so that's something to take in account also, because it may take time. All right, so we are only in the Euro session. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. If you don't find any setups, don't rush. Wait for the H4 to close, look at the new H4, and even you can wait until the US session. So you can map all these out and then wait for the US session to see if there are any setups that will form. Okay, so where do you place your SLs? Again, 40 pips from your entries. Okay, so make sure you monitor the key levels and find engulfings that is within or in between or even around the key levels. After it has formed, you enter and then you mark 40 pips from your entry to allow a bit of space and movement for the price to move around a little before going that direction. Excuse me. Okay, so that's for GU, and last but not least, we have CAD JPY. I haven't marked this pair in such a long time. Okay, but I want to show you this because we do have a hidden engulfing, which a lot of you have been asking about this. Okay, so we have a sell zone up here, an engulfing sell meets engulfing sell, an engulfing buy that failed over here, and then in the process of failing created an engulfing sell. So we have an EG sell. So this is a zone that we are going to monitor also because currently H4 is just right below. Then we have an engulfing buy that failed over here, but then the price came back and created an engulfing buy within the zone. Okay, so this is what we call a hidden engulfing, an engulfing that was disrespected but later respected in the future. Okay, so this is what I mean by hidden engulfing. Now, before we go to H4 just closed, nice, the new one just opened, so monitor that. Okay, but before I go to how CAD JPY can move, let's mark the key level over here together, because a lot of you are asking me how to mark and you just want to see how it's done. So when you mark on the higher time frame, since I'm marking on H4, I switch to M15. So what do I do? First, I try to find an area just in this box, right? An area where the price plays as support and resistance, meaning there's a price area or a price zone just with your naked eye that if it comes into contact, there can be resistance, but if it breaks above, then it will just bounce, right, as support. So you can see resistance, support over here, bounce back up. If it breaks down, then you will see it just respects. So you know that it's around here somewhere. So I would mark it like this. Then what do I do next? I line that up from top. I line the box up from top to bottom. Then I look towards the left of the zone, of the higher time frame zone. I look towards the left to find an engulfing that happened within the zone. And as much as possible, I want the whole candle, meaning body and wick, to be within or in between these lines. So on M15, you can see that there is none, right? And if I have to scroll back, it might be very, very far. So what I do is I switch to M5. So from there, you see this is the high time frame zone, right? This is the H4 that we marked. So towards the left, I found this already, an engulfing cell. Body and wick happened within these two lines. So from there, I am going to adjust and line that engulfing up. And now you have your key level. Okay, congratulations. So from there, you will see, if you marked it correctly, you will see the price bounce and play around the area. So you can see resistance, resistance, a lot of resistance. It can even bounce from here. If it breaks below, pokes, drops. Even over here. After breaking up, price came back, used the key level to show or have wick rejections, a little bounce before breaking down. Okay, even over here, there's a lot of play in this key level. Okay, so that's how you mark the key levels. Now we go back to H4 and see what CAD JPY can do. Okay, screenshot. This is going to go very quick. Current price here. If it decides to climb up into our sell zone on this new H4 or the next coming H4s, and the H4 respects it, then potentially we can catch a sell back down. But if it breaks above, then we know we have a higher zone up here that it might want to test. Okay, vice versa. If it decides to drop all the way down into our buy zone and respects it, then it potentially could bounce. But if it breaks below, then we know it potentially might test a lower region, because we do have an engulfing cell over here also that it might want to test. Okay, so that's it for all the pairs. Trade smart, trade wisely, please. This is a Thursday. We still have one more day in the market, so don't go ham, don't go crazy, don't full margin to lose all the profits you've made from Monday to Wednesday. Better yet, withdraw some and trade with whatever is left up or starting of your capital. Okay, I'm gonna get back to messaging or replying to your messages, and I'll update on the pair.